Welcome to Off Screen. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Zehra Phelan, and this is your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Really, it is. I'm happy to be back with you, Zehra. I really am. So, 2 weeks on the trot. Last week we got to bid. Was it a fond farewell to the X-Men franchise? I guess. I mean, it was a farewell.
A farewell, yeah.
It was it's been 20 years. That starts a hell of an emotional commitment for a franchise. Whether or not it was emotionally returned to us is another question entirely. I would argue it went out on something of a sour note, much like most relationships I've ever had. But alas, fare thee well, X-Men. However, we do get to say goodbye to another franchise this week. I don't know, are you as attached to Bill and Ted as the X-Men, would you say?
Oh, hell no.
Hell no, absolutely. Do you know the best part as well is that thanks to certain machinations, thanks to Freeview and new release, etc., this week we do kind of get to talk about all the Bill and Ted movies, which is incredible. But before we talk about Bill and Ted, let's talk about something of a decidedly different ilk. Let's talk about the new movie from Sally Potter. Was it The Party? Did you ever see The Party? It was about 2 or 3 years ago, the black and white one that was set at a dinner party.
Yeah, I vaguely remember it. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I did see it.
That was Cillian Murphy and Timothy Spall, and it was. I remember critics loved it. I don't think any audiences loved it because no one showed up for it, so audiences didn't love it, but critics loved it.
It's a critic-friendly film, as I say.
It was. I wonder if this is going to be as well. So this is the new one. This is The Road's Not Taken. This is written by Sally Potter. It is directed by Sally Potter. It's even got a score by Sally Potter. I know because the score's actually pretty decent. This stars Javier Bardem, Laura Linney, and Elle Fanning. Primarily Javier Bardem and Elle Fanning as a father and daughter. He has dementia, and we also see flashes of 2 concurrent periods in his life. So we see a time prior to his condition worsening in which he seemingly was married to Salma Hayek, which, just for the sake of spoilers, I'm just going to tell you that I don't even have to have dementia. If I was ever married to Salma Hayek, I'm thinking about that all day, every day, for eternity. That's just it. He also thinks about a time he spent in Greece, which he doesn't think about as much because, obviously, it's not as good as being married to Salma Hayek. Anyway, the present day, he is struggling with the throes of his condition. His daughter is feeling the weight that their condition is putting upon their relationship, and she's struggling really to just get him any sense of equality. Let's have a little sample before we get into it.
Nestor is there? No. Nestor?
Oh, Nestor is no longer with us.
He's in heaven.
No.
Doggy heaven.
No.
He was a very good dog.
Nestor?
Is he getting agitated? We can give him something to calm him down.
Why does everyone continue to refer to Dad as he? As if he's not here?
Well, is he?
So you saw this before I did, Zehra. What did you think of this one?
It is really a heartbreaking film, and it does give you the perspective of what someone goes through who got dementia and the people around them, their loved ones as well, which is actually quite heartbreaking.
Quite heartbreaking stuff. I will say, I mean, for me, the stuff that's there, this is a very, very strange film in one regard, because it's working a gimmick, which is to run the 3 time periods. And this is what it kind of advertises on the tin. They're literally marketing the film as, whilst in throes of dementia, he's reliving these same 2 periods of his life. That's in no way the focus of the film whatsoever, though. And in fact, of those 2 other time periods, you really only needed one of them, which is the Salma Hayek one, because it sort of pays off late in the 3rd act, and really not for that much catharsis. I would argue that we don't particularly get anything out of any big revelation of the Salma Hayek period of his life. Having said that, I do think Javier Bardem's very good at it. I don't think you can question that at all.
Javier Bardem's good in everything he does. I mean, Fanning's good, but I couldn't get the image out of that she was his daughter.
Well, the thing, I mean, her entire arc in this film just seems to consist, as you'll hear in that clip, of this sort of righteous indignation. Her entire role in the film is simply to be there, to offend everyone else's attitude, and to do really nothing else. And then you've got Laura Linney, who turns up, I think, twice, maybe 3 times in this film, for no other reason than just to put on this sort of, what I call shifty bitch mode. I mean, there's really no other way kind of around it. You could reductively chalk the entire thing up as this sort of as this sort of wander down memory lane with the sort of mawkish anti-disability kind of element put on top of it. But you assume there has to be slightly more heart put into it than that. And I know it is dedicated to Potter's own brother, I think, who struggled with dementia. So I can obviously understand there is an emotional component gone into this, but I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling that emotion at all, and I think that's a big problem.
Yeah, and I do think that, again, is down to having the 3 stages of his life as well. I don't think either the 2 past lives has anything has any coherent story to what's happening presently. I just don't think it went with it at all.
No, I agree with you. I mean, when it gets to the point, which believe me is late in the game, it's very nicely done. It's very sweet. It's very, they become relevant points, but again, they take their time getting there, and it's a slog. Having said that, as you pointed out to me before we started recording as well, at least it's only a short slog. It's a tight and tidy 85 minutes,
Yeah, and it goes pretty quickly as well, so that's not too bad.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's The Road's Not Taken. Don't particularly think you'll want to take those roads yourself. It's kind of 1 thumb up from me, really, mostly for Javier Bardem's rather brilliant performance in there. But what would you give it out of 2 thumbs there? What are you giving it?
I'll give it out of 2 thumbs.
Out of 2 thumbs. You got 2, unless there's something freakishly wrong with it. I think you only have 2 thumbs.
I'll give it 2.
Give it 2. Okay, yeah. fair. Okay, so on to something that's less thumbs and more thumb and pinky finger. Let's go on to Bill and Ted Face the Music, which is, the finale that we never knew we needed to the Bill and Ted franchise. So I think it's been 19 years? 29 years, I want to say, since the last Bill and Ted movie. So Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey was 1991, Excellent Adventure was 88, released 89 in the UK, I think. And now we have the threequel, Bill and Ted Face the Music, in which Bill and Ted are reunited with the future, as it were, in their 50s, when they are told that they have 77 minutes, in more or less real time, to finally write and perform the song that will save the entire universe from imploding, both in terms of time and space. And I'm just going to let Kristen Schaal do it for me, because she just makes it sound cuter than I do.
Greetings, my excellent friends.
Do we know you?
I'm Kelly.
Wait, you're Rufus's daughter.
I am, and I've been wanting to meet you my whole life.
It must be very disappointing.
Not at all. We have a problem, gentlemen. Potentially a very serious problem.
About the music?
About the music. They just want to talk to you.
Dude, I got a very bad feeling about this. It'll be fine, Ted. They totally love us in the future, dude.
All I'm going to say is, if they're finally going to go back to the future in this one, how dare they not do a remix of Robbie Robb's In Time? Because that was the needle drop of the original Bill and Ted movie. That thing kicked ass. So, I assume you're not as big a Bill and Ted fan as I am, Zehra.
As I said before, hell no!
So not being as big, because obviously I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Bill and Ted fan, have been since I was like 6-7 years old. Love Bill and Ted. So before I get into the fanboy take on this one, let's go with the naysayer opinion. What do you think of this?
I mean, for me, I could have gone away for the first hour, watched 2 episodes of EastEnders, come back and knew exactly what happened.
Why EastEnders?
It was just the first series that came into my head.
Fair.
For me, it took at least an hour for it to warm up to actually get anywhere, and then it found its feet with its humour and the storyline as well.
Well, I found that really odd as well, because I think you're completely correct there. It does take its time to find its feet, and it does end on a lot better a note than it starts. When it starts out, it does feel very ramshackle. It does feel very sort of everything's thrown at the kitchen wall kind of thing, see what sticks. The performances, I mean, Alex Winter hasn't skipped a beat. There's something kind of eerie about Keanu Reeves in this film, where he seems to feel more natural the wackier Ted gets, and the more you see alternate versions of Bill and Ted, for instance, in the future. Keanu Reeves seems to come out of his shell a bit there, but in terms of just playing the basic Ted, he seems to be weirdly out of step. Maybe he's just like not used to doing this little in a role, perhaps.
It's because he didn't have his beard. He felt lost without it.
That's what it is. That's what it is. So much power contained within the beard. And it's noticeable that all the other versions of Ted do all feature beards. So your theory is not without merit. So this, like I say, it starts better than it begins. Some of the the cameos are all great, to be honest. Even Death, who doesn't really even need to be in the film, for being honest, is there, all his fan service. There's some quite good historical characters sort of appearing in there, as you would expect from a Bill and Ted movie. There's a great extended cameo from Kid Cudi that I thought was pretty good. Yeah. There's a smaller cameo for, let's just say, the lead singer of a certain very popular American rock band that had me absolutely whooping and cheering, as you'll know, because we watched this together. And there are certain new cast members. There are, for instance, Kristen Schaal as Rufus's daughter Kelly, Anthony Carrigan from Barry, who plays a sort of Bill and Ted version of a Terminator, albeit one who's a bit more mopey and dancey. Beck Bennett from Saturday Night Live turns up as the newly adult Deacon. And if you're going to describe this effectively is the lyrics to Tenacious D's tribute played out with Bill and Ted and a Terminator. And in the meanwhile, you've got their daughters, Bridget Lundy Payne and Samara Weaving, who've gone off to basically do the plots of both of the first two Bill and Teds. It's fine. It's, by the end of it, you do feel, I'm glad I watched that. Actually, it put a smile on my face. But you do feel like it is an unnecessary, if not just triumphant finale. It's an unneeded finale, but it's a triumphant one, I think.
Yeah, it was just totally, for me anyway, it was like, what was the point? It's more of a nostalgia trip for the fans out there.
Absolutely. It does feel like downloadable content. It feels like I've just finished my video game. Now I shall download this extra level so that I can have one more level's play out of it. It's like when you've finished Arkham City and you pay like £3 so you can play another level as Robin. But, it's kind of like that. I had a good time with it. Didn't think it was amazing. I didn't think it was an excellent adventure, but I didn't think it was bogus either. I would say it as... I would say it's sort of most mundane, but marginally triumphant. That's what I'll go with.
Oh, God.
And welcome back to Offscreen. We're going to keep you on that couch now for some Freeview fun. Starting with your 7-day guide to everything movies on free-to-air channels, really. Starting on Saturday, 9 p.m, 5-star. Now, I understand, Miss Phelan, that you've not seen this, which is one of my very favourite comedies of the last sort of 2 decades. It's Galaxy Quest. You've never had the pleasure?
No, I've never had the pleasure. It's one of those ones that I've always stayed well clear of.
For shame. Now, I'm going to ask, before we get into it, why have you stayed well clear of it?
It just reminds me of someone like you, really, has got your humour.
Right, first of all, believe me, this movie was ahead of its time. Like, if you put this movie out today, if this movie had never existed and you released it in box office, in multiplexes today, maybe not in the middle of COVID, but, prior to COVID or after, this would be probably the biggest comedy of the year, hands down. So the idea is, comes from 1999, directed by Dean Parasote, who, funnily enough, also directed Bill and Ted Face the Music. Ha ha ha, so funny timing. This stars Alan Rickman, Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Sam Rockwell, Tony Shalhoub, Robin Atkin Downes. I'm trying to think who else is in this. It's just one of those all-encompassing casts where everyone that you know as being that guy from that thing turns up in it. So Enrique Colantoni, who most people know as being one of the romantic leads from Just Shoot Me, aka Veronica Mars's dad, he shows up in this. It's one of those kind of films. It also stars, much to my absolute triumph, Mr. Justin Long, which always fills me with joy. So the idea here is you've got a cancelled TV show from the 80s in this case, called Galaxy Quest, which is a very thinly disguised version of Star Trek, the original series, space-based adventure series, polystyrene planets, Prime Directive, that kind of thing. It's been cancelled. The fans have never let it die properly. It exists within conventions now, and these has-been actors are eking out a living just at signing tables, rather like actual sci-fi actors do, only for the transmissions of the original series to reach outer space, be taken in by aliens who themselves are under siege by an external force. They then believe the thing is real, build the ship from the series, and go and abduct the actors, expecting them to have the basic skill sets, as the series has shown them, to save the universe. And of course, they're in no position to do so. The Spock-like figure played by Alan Rickman in particular has decidedly got other priorities in mind.
How did I come to this?
Not again.
I played Richard III.
5 curtain calls.
There were 5 curtain calls. I was an actor once. Damn it, now look at me. Look at me! I can't go out there and I won't say that stupid line one more time. I can't. I won't.
Well, Alex, at least you had a part. Okay? You had a character people loved. I mean, my TV Guide interview was 6 paragraphs about my boobs and how they fit into my suit. No one even bothered to ask me what I do on the show.
You had the... Wait, I'll think of it.
I repeated the computer, Fred.
Right, you will love this, Zehra. If you've never seen it, prepare for a comedy that will absolutely tickle you right in the funny bone. This is absolutely the prestige of every sci-fi show you never knew you needed.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to that clip, I was like, oh, I miss Alan Rickman, so I'll watch it just for him.
Can I tell you his iconic quote from this? Because if you've never seen the film, he has like a mantra that his character has to say. Kind of like live long and prosper, only his is, by Grabthar's hammer, by the sons of Warvan, you shall be avenged. Now imagine that in the voice of Alan Rickman. Yeah. And you're in for some absolute gold. It is really worth it. If you've never seen it, do check it out, because it absolutely pastiches every single element of Star Trek. Everything down to why does Captain Kirk's shirt always rip in that very specific way. Everything. It does everything. Even the Star Trek actors themselves have gone on record in the two decades since this to say, actually, this is the best movie ever made about Star Trek, and it's not even a movie about Star Trek. So, take of that what you will. 9 p.m, 5-star, Saturday night. Do check it out. You will have a grand old time. But one that you'll laugh probably less at, although you'll still love. Sunday night, 10:55 on Film 4. Now, you're a recent convert to this. So it's Trainspotting, which is, of course, based on the Irvin Welsh novel of the same name, and, of course, made stars out of, everybody involved. So there was what? There was Ewan McGregor, there's Johnny Lee Miller, there's Robert Carlyle, Danny Boyle obviously became a name off the back of this. And, of course, Irvin Welsh himself became something of a rock star. And this is, of course, the chronicle, the mid-90s watershed chronicle of a group of heroin addicts in, is it Edinburgh or Glasgow? I can never remember with this. Was it Edinburgh?
I swear it was Edinburgh.
But you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to skip the traditional choose life moment and just go for the preamble for one of my favourite scenes.
Good luck, Spud. Cheers, Catboy.
Now, remember, if they think you're no trying, you're in trouble, right? First hint of that and they'll be onto the DHSS. This is no trying, and your gyro's finished, right?
Right.
But then again, try too hard.
You might get the job.
Exactly.
Nightmare.
It's a tightrope, Spud. It's a tightrope.
See, I just get pure shy with the interviewer cats. Like, I get all nervous and I can't answer any of the questions. Like, I'm a footballer and I get nerves on a big occasion, man.
Try some of this, Spud.
Yeah, a little dab of speed is just a ticket, man.
I don't know about you, but I think I'm going to last 5 seconds on speed in a job interview. But great scene of Ewan Bremner trying to make his way through that job interview, and it's absolutely spectacular. The film is infinitely funnier than I think we give it credit for, but it's remembered as a lot more of a mawkish, down, dirty, grimy kind of film with some actually quite horrifying imagery. If you remember, like the baby on the ceiling and things like that.
Mm. Yeah, and it's those grimy images which really didn't make me a fan of this film at first.
Well, you were won over in the end, weren't you?
Yeah, I just still can't get over that toilet scene. That still haunts my nightmares.
Well, I can never use the bathroom at Victoria Station. Anyway, okay. So you can see Trainspotting 10:55 Sunday night on Film 4. Moving over to Monday then, sort of beginning the next week, although we like to give you a nice extended weekend in one go. When was the last time we had a 3-day weekend anyway? Sony Movies, 7:05 p.m. Something a bit more light-hearted, something more big. It's 13 going on with Jennifer Garner and Mark Ruffalo, in which I believe her name is Jenna Rink, is a 13-year-old girl who makes a wish on her birthday and wakes up in her own 30-year-old body, when she is then played by a sort of surprisingly naive Jennifer Garner. And of course, the only person she can turn to for help is her former best friend, who's now played by an adult Mark Ruffalo.
You still take pictures?
Yeah, it pays the bills. Hey, Jenna, why are you here?
Maddie, I told you. Something really weird is happening. Yesterday was my 13th birthday. And then today I woke up and I'm this. And you're that. You get it?
Yeah, You've been smoking pot, doing X, falling into a K-hole, you doing drugs?
No.
I'm just going to say that regardless of whether I'm 1330 or what, if I wake up looking like Mark Ruffalo, I'm celebrating.
Yeah, and if I woke up looking like Jennifer Garner, me too.
And she still looks exactly the same.
She does.
Anyway, you're a fan of this, aren't you? I mean, I like the film quite a bit. I mean, it's got a great little appearance from Andy Serkis in it, but you're a bigger fan of this than I am, I think.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I wasn't so much. Another one where, because there was such a spate of these films, all, the vice versa age reversal type films at the same time.
Freaky Friday was around this time,
Yeah,
wasn't
it was. But I mean, I revisited this recently, and I'd completely forgotten about Ruffalo being in it, completely forgotten about Serkis being in it. And then there's this one scene where you've got both Ruffalo and Serkis. They do a sequence in Michael Jackson's Thriller. They do a dance, and Serkis kills that. I was like, oh my God!
But I don't remember that was the time. Like back in this period, Mark Ruffalo was just who you went and got when you had a rom-com and you didn't know who to get to be the male lead. You just went and got Mark Ruffalo in a sweater, and that was just what happened. It was just get me Mark, fetch a sweater, we'll belt this out by lunchtime. That was just how these things. It was like what was that one with Reese Witherspoon when she was the ghost?
Oh,
was
yeah,
Just Like Heaven.
Just Like Heaven. Yeah, that's it.
Same kind of thing. Just get me Mark Ruffalo and a sweater. We'll have this done by tea time. Don't worry about it. I think he's great for that. But I think a lot of the charm of this one comes from Jennifer Garner. I think she's just got that right persona for it. I think she's lively and bubbly enough, I think.
Yeah, and it's also got a great soundtrack to it as well. I mean, there's Love is Battlefield by Pet Benatar in it, and I've been singing that ever since.
Well, I'll say, because 13 going on 30 is very deeply rooted in, I think, about 1986, 1987 kind of time in terms of the soundtrack. So it's a good period to do a nostalgia-driven soundtrack from. But I think that's a pretty good end to our first trifecta of films on Freeview for the week. From Galaxy Quest to Trainspotting to 13 going on 30. We have taken you through the spectrum, I think, nicely with those three.
Yeah, you're gonna want to see one of them at least.
And if you watch all three, congratulations, you may have a psychotic episode. But try to hold on to your hats until we get back, because we still got Tuesday through Friday to do. Welcome back to Off Screen. So, Miss Phelan, still on that couch. Should we have some more Freeview filmic fun for, I think, the remainder of our week? Let's start on Tuesday then. How do you feel about a bit of horror?
It has to be a really good horror.
No, you and I have seen some absolutely atrocious and very rubbish horror together, but let's talk about one then that isn't rubbish. This is, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is absolutely a B-movie horror spectacle, a B-movie creature feature that somehow found its way looking out into a sort of theatrical window. I believe it's Vincenzo Natali directing. It is Splice from all the way back in 2009. Did you see this when it came out? It was Adrian Brody and Sarah Polley. Did you catch this one?
No.
So the idea are geneticists who are trying to create what are basically simple organisms for pharmaceutical research. They wind up creating a life that they name Dren. And she presents initially as a sort of offbeat, genetically modified little girl, albeit sort of a hairless little girl with a long sort of scorpion-like tail. And of course, they decide to raise her in secrecy and in captivity as their would-be daughter. Three guesses how spectacularly wrong this might go.
Clive? Clive? Clive?
Gavin.
What happened?
He's alive.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's all going to be all sunshine and rainbows, that one, does it? So, Horror Channel, 10:45 p.m. There's actually a decent little supporting role in there for David Hewlett as well, known to sci-fi fans as Dr. Rodney McKay from the Stargate franchise. He's always fun to see turning up in this. And, of course, he had starred in Cube for director Vincenzo Natali prior to this, which is another one of my sort of sci-fi bug house faves. You know, I like a good, violent, bloody, nasty sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
But Splice, worth checking out. Horror Channel, 10:45 Tuesday night. On to Wednesday then. First part of a double bill. This is on, say, we've only got the first one down, but we're going to cheat a little. We're going to toss the second movie in as well. So Channel 5 on Wednesday nights at 11:05 are showing Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, because obviously Wednesday is the release date of Bill and Ted Face the Music in cinemas. On Thursday night, they are following that up with a screening of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey as well. But we're not going to talk about that because The Heat is also on the same night. However, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which is, the movie that started it all. It's the movie that pretty much gave us Keanu Reeves and then gave us Alex Winter. And we as an audience said, no, you can take him back. But we got Keanu Reeves out of it. And some decent documentaries from Alex Winter, including a very, very good one on Napster called Downloaded. So don't write the poor boy off just yet. He was also in The Lost Boys. Let us not forget. Not everyone gets a Keanu. Anyway, so Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, in which Bill S. Preston and Ted Theodore Logan are the only hope for the future of humanity as they attempt to survive their history exam with the aid of a time-traveling phone box that they use to abduct popular figures from history. Why this would in any way benefit them with their history exam, I don't quite know. Also, I'm not sure what school in the universe actually has history exams this way, but you know what? It's all part of the fun. Here's Bill and Ted.
Greetings, my excellent friends.
Do you know when the Mongols ruled China?
Wow. Perhaps we could ask them. Bill S. Preston, Esquire, and Ted Theodore Logan. Gentlemen, I'm here to help you with your history report.
What? How? Oh, I hate that part. Bill. What? Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Now, how that hasn't aged, really. That still sounds as good as it did back then.
Really?
I think it does. I think when you hear that film now, I think it makes the third film sound ropier, because the first and even the second one just have this absolute conviction, this absolute belief in their own worth and humour that I think the third one lacks. But I don't think you can beat that first one. I think the second one is vastly underrated, though. However, you can find out for yourself. You can revisit the whole lot on Wednesday if you so desire. Just see Bill and Ted on Wednesday, see Bogus Journey on Thursday, and then just pop to the cinema on Friday if you feel it's safe. That is completely on you. On Friday to see Bill and Ted Face the Music and get the whole trilogy out over a 3-day sprint. You're not a fan then? How can you not be a fan of Bill and Ted?
I never was. I hated Beavis and Butthead, and that's all I can remember Bill and Ted being like. And it really grated on my nerves.
Well, you had the three of them. You had Bill and Ted, you had Wayne and Garth, and you had Beavis and Butthead. They were all kind of around the same time.
And and it made me want to take a gun to my head and blow my brains out.
Well, that's clearly going to be a gender thing in the early 90s, right there. I'm sure my younger sister feels exactly the same about Bill and Ted. I will say, though, best soundtrack of the three, and this is a controversial opinion, belongs to Bogus Journey. Bogus Journey has the best out-and-out soundtrack of the three. Just saying. Also, there is a moment in the new movie in which someone says the word station, and I've never cheered harder at a film in my life, as you will attest. There was literally a moment during that third film in which you heard me scream out the words, station! But it can't be helped. So, Thursday, if you are not watching, in fact, you could watch this before Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, on Film 4. This is a film I hope you like a bit more than Bill and Ted, at least. It's Sandra Bullock, it's Melissa McCarthy, it's Paul Feig, it's The Heat on Film 4. So, Miss Phelan, where do you sit on The Heat?
Quite forgettable.
Quite forgettable? What?
I saw the schedule for this week, and I saw The Heat, and I was like, oh, I've never seen that. And then I went and looked, I was like, I have seen it.
You have.
Yeah, I
have. I'm not sure if you didn't see this at a screening with me, and I think we knew each other at the time. But this was what, 7 years ago now. So Sandra Bullock is the square FBI agent. Melissa McCarthy is the ragged around the edges police officer. They are forced to team up. It is literally the definition. In fact, did you know that until several months before it was released, this was legitimately filmed and packaged up as, and this is genuinely what the title was, Untitled Melissa McCarthy, Sandra Bullock Buddy Cop Comedy.
That doesn't surprise me.
Which I would have genuinely released it as. I would have released it as buddy cop comedy and just seen if anybody noticed whatsoever. So you've got the setup, you know what's coming. Imagine a bunch of SNL caliber comedians and cable comedians like Bill Burr, for instance, and people like that, turning up to do wonderful bits of dialogue like this.
Are you a knock?
I'm sorry?
Are you a knock?
A knock. Sorry, I don't know what that is. A knock.
A knock. Am I speaking Japanese?
Yeah, listen to him.
I'm gonna sound it out for you. Are you, or are you not a knock? Like Johnny Depp in 21 Jump Street.
I see. Okay, a narc.
A knock, yes.
Yes. No,
what was I saying?
I was missing the R when you were saying. I heard knock.
What are you? What are you doing here? What are you doing?
I'm a federal agent. I'm a special agent.
Are you a boy or a girl?
It's a fair question. I'm female.
No kidding.
All woman.
From the get-go? No operation?
From birth, yes.
God. I kind of feel like you would never get that gag in a movie now.
You wouldn't. That's a
I feel like no. You wouldn't. I thought you wouldn't do that gag in a movie now. Certainly, Sandra Bullock would never do that gag in a movie now. But I think it's got a lot going for it. It's got a great soundtrack. It's got some great action beats. It's got Biff from Back to the Future having his ass handed to him by Melissa McCarthy as the police captain. There's some worthy stuff in there as well. Is it? And who's the? There's a young agent who has a bit of a thing for Sandra Bullock. Is that Damon Wayans Jr.? I want to say
it's Marlon.
Is it Marlon Wayans? Oh, I knew it was one of the Wayanses. I figured, given the age he'd have to be, it would be Damon Wayans Jr. But yeah, Marlon Wayans. Oh, okay, look at him getting a non-slapstick role. That's interesting. So, okay, on to Friday then. This one goes from buddy cop comedy to buddy cop action thriller extraordinaire. Now, there's a controversial debate amongst fans as to whether or not this is the best of the series. I disagree with it, although I can see how the argument has been made. It is, of course, Die Hard with a Vengeance, which is on Sony Movies at 9 p.m. on Friday. John McClane is forced to team up with a civilian named Zeus Carver, played by Samuel L. Jackson, and they are put through the ringer by Simon, a mysterious terrorist mastermind who phones them up and issues them challenges one after time. Before we get into whether or not this is actually the best of the Die Hard movies, let's have a sample as to the general quality on offer.
Now, John, there's a significant amount of explosive in the trash receptacle next to you. Try to run, and it goes up now.
Nobody's gonna run, but I got 100 people out here.
That's the point. Now, do I have your attention? As I was going to St. Ives, I met a man with 7 wives. Every wife had 7 sacks. Every sack has 7 cats. Every cat has 7 kittens. Kittens, cats, sacks, and wives. How many were going to St. Ives? My phone number is 555.
No, wait, I didn't get all that. Say it again.
Not a chance. My phone number is 555, and the answer. Call me in 30 seconds or die.
I mean, I've had worse phone-ins. I think the X Factor one's harder to get into, if I'm honest. You sit on hold longer for the X Factor anyway. So, Die Hard with a Vengeance. How do you think this ranks in the Die Hard pantheon then, Zehra?
I feel it's just the same as all the others, to be honest. Anyone listening to this would think I hate movies, but you've picked some really tough choices for me this week.
Do you know what it is? I think Bex and I are just a bit more basic than you. I think that's what it is. No, I think Die Hard with a Vengeance is. I think it's probably the second best. I don't think you can beat that first one.
The first one's always going to be the best one.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's definitely got the second best villain, I would say, and obviously for reasons relating to a twist that's been in movies for 25 years, it makes sense that is the case. I do think giving McClane a sidekick as a one-off was a very good idea, and Samuel L. Jackson is absolutely perfect for it. Annoyingly, the series falls into a pattern after this, where all of a sudden McClane always has to have a sidekick. And I don't think they realised that this was intended as a one-off rather than the new formula. So it kind of has ruined the franchise going forward. But you know what? At least we got one in which he teamed up with Justin Long. So not a total loss. And if you want a bit of amazing trivia for this, Jonathan Hensley, who wrote this movie, who wound up going on to direct The Punisher in 2004, got arrested and detained by the FBI because of this movie. Because true story, he wrote this movie and then the FBI showed up, put him in cuffs, took him away, sat him in an interrogation room and demanded to know just how he knew so thoroughly how to rob the gold exchange under Wall Street. And he had to sit there and explain to the FBI, I write movies, I researched this, we are literally making a Die Hard sequel right now, which I'm sure sounded made up in the moment, but that is genuinely true, and you can see the fruits of that labour for yourself, 9 p.m. on Friday on Sony Movies. I think Die Hard with a Vengeance is a very good way to end the week, I think.
Yeah, if you love Bruce Willis in a vest getting beaten up and blowing things up, yeah.
Yeah, but that used to be a good thing, though. Remember when that used to be a good thing? Bruce Willis in an action movie in a vest getting blown. That was what we lived for like 25 years ago.
Maybe you did. I was a bit more sophisticated, darling.
Well, you know, I'm just saying, back then he wasn't quite as slumming. He wasn't in De Niro mode, as we now call it. But let's say, Friday night, 9 p.m, Channel 4, get the beers and pizzas on the go and live it up with John McClane. What could possibly go wrong? And we're back on off screen for one last ride. This time we're riding not much further than you already sat, so we're keeping it on the couch. We're going to bring in some shiny discs, some streams, and still give you no reason to leave that couch. We're good like that. So, coming to DVD and Blu-ray this coming Monday, the 14th of September. It is September, isn't it, Zehra?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I'm forgetting the month now.
I had to think about it.
There was a trailer the other day for Bond, and I saw it. It's like, it's out in November. I'm like, oh, that's months away. I'm like, no, that's like 8 weeks away.
Exactly.
It's just that, yeah, time has no meaning in COVID land. That's where it is. So, coming to DVD and Blu-ray this coming Monday. Movies that we've talked about in other forms. We talked about when they were on new release. We talked about them when they were on streaming, for instance. They've now been put out to home platforms. Resistance, first and foremost. This came out quite quietly a few weeks back, starring Jesse Eisenberg as Marcel Marceau. You know, the mime. So I know you haven't seen this. He's the mime who, it turns out, was a member of the resistance during World War II and would help them launch attacks and smuggle out orphans from occupied territory. This is a story that somehow fell under the radar. And the movie literally has, it's one of those movies that has, like, you know, Ed Harris turns up for like 2 lines of dialogue, and they split those 2 lines in half, so they have 1 line at the end of the movie and 1 line at the beginning, so that it looks like he's in the whole movie. You know, one of those really cunning things. Like, we literally had him on set for an afternoon, but we're going to make it look like he's in this whole damn thing. One of those.
Yeah, and it has and Ed Harris on the poster.
Of course,
yeah.
and it's Ed. Exactly that. I mean, there's literally a point at the end of the movie where, you know, it shows you after the war, it shows you like what became of Marcel Marceau, and it shows you, like, you know, Jesse Eisenberg getting his mime on, so to speak. And I'm just sort of thinking, those poor soldiers, they've been through all of World War II, and now you're making them sit there and watch a mime. I mean, poor guys have just liberated concentration camps. They've suffered enough. You're going to now make them sit and watch a mime for like 3 hours? Come on, guys. Ed Harris, you're better than this. But so that's Resistance, which is otherwise fine. It's not an amazing movie because on a bit doesn't have an awful lot to say. And it is... do you remember Oscar Gold, that fake movie in American Dad that Roger the Alien invents to win an Oscar? Resistance is literally that patronising a movie.
Well, with Jesse Eisenberg in it as well, so that says it all.
Exactly. He may be able to pick good movies. And then for some reason he discovered DC Comics and just never looked back. Also on DVD the same day, and I'm happy to say, thankfully, a lot better a movie. The King of Staten Island, new Judd Apatow movie, co-written by and starring Pete Davidson, who, of course, speaking of DC Comics, we're going to see in a year's time in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, I'm reliably told. But this is loosely based on his own story. He is, a Staten Island occupant whose father died. In reality, it was 9/11. He's just died in unrelated fire here. And he's sort of just stuck around home. His sister has graduated and is graduated high school. She's moving on to college. She's going to have her own life, leaving just him and Mom. How well do you think this could possibly go?
Okay, you don't get that crazy your whole life just because Dad died, okay? At least you got to know him.
Well, you're lucky you didn't get to know him, okay? Because that's why you're almost normal. If you got to know him, you would have known that he was, like, the coolest guy ever. And that would have ruined the rest of your life.
Okay, but what are you gonna do? Are you gonna get a job, or are you gonna leave the house?
I don't know. I'm gonna open that tattoo restaurant.
No, for real.
I am being real. It's never been done before. I looked it up. I Googled it. It's never been done, not even as a joke.
Because no one wants to go to a restaurant and watch people get tattooed while they eat. It's gross.
It's the best idea ever. Ruby Tattoos Days, where everyone's welcome. Chicken and tattoos.
Okay, true story on this one. I reviewed this with my friend Adam Ball on BBC Oxford, and he legit responded to that clip by saying, do you know what, that actually is a really good idea for a restaurant. I would eat there. So I think the gag falls a little bit flatter than the actual reality, which is that some people would actually go for that.
Yeah, I think so.
You saw this. You saw this for the first time this week, didn't you?
Yes, I did actually, and for the first half of this film, I wasn't really into it. I mean, I didn't really care about him or about his life. He just seems like a bit of a loser. He's got that annoying big brother attitude where you just really want to punch him in the face.
I can understand that. I can absolutely understand it. So you sympathised with the sister, is what you're saying?
Yes, very much so, because I had that brother.
I see.
Yeah, but I mean, as the second half falls into place, I mean, and he does get his life together, it's a bit more heartfelt and there's a bit more to it. It feels a bit more meatier for me.
You know what? I agree with you completely. Like you say, it gets meatier. I think the second half of the film is a lot better than the first half. Once it finds its feet and they start getting into, for instance, they start developing the relationship between him and Bill Burr as his mum's would-be boyfriend / love interest. When they start fleshing that relationship out, when they start exploring his relationship with his sister, when they basically start getting into the actual relationships, the movie noticeably picks up speed, picks up pace. And it feels like a lot happens in a lot shorter a space of time.
Yeah.
When you consider that this film is over 2 hours long. It's like 2.25, something like that.
Yeah.
It's got there's a lot of fat needed trimming out of this, and there's a lot of fat needed, spreading out, as it were, as well. But I do think it's a very good film. I think it is a very good calling card for what Pete Davidson could be capable of.
Oh, definitely. I mean, but put aside that, he is this really unlikable character, that's just it shows you how good a actor he is. To be able to work with that. Unless he's like that in real life, I don't know.
Oh, no, he's basically just, I mean, if you just cast your mind back about 18 months and just picture someone exactly that unlikable or likable, depending on how you see him, plus Ariana Grande, you basically had the real Pete Davidson. That's kind of how that works.
Yeah.
And occasionally he'd show up to work on SNL, and then occasionally he wouldn't. That was the real Pete Davidson about 18 months ago, I would say. Yeah,
I did wonder. I thought about Ariana Grande, and I was like, what did she ever see in this guy? Seriously?
He's very cool, I'm told, He's kind of like, he's a millennial poster boy. Well, not a millennial, like a Gen Y poster boy. I mean, a millennial poster boy would be someone like, I don't know. Who's a millennial poster boy? I don't know, Jason Priestley? Who's the one now?
Yeah, him and Luke Perry.
Luke Perry were like millennial poster boys. I suppose Pete Davidson would be the Gen Y equivalent. No, on to. Well, yeah, I'm aware that I'm trying to compare Luke Perry and Pete Davidson, but that's age for you, darling. Speaking of age, let's move away from shiny discs and onto streaming. Let's get hip and young and talk about a Spielberg movie that's seemingly slipped under the radar and onto streaming this next week. War of the Worlds is coming to Prime tomorrow on Saturday the 12th. You didn't see this one, did you?
No, I didn't. I mean, I remember seeing the series when I was a kid, and I didn't like it, so I was like, yeah, I'm not going there.
This is like a reimagining. I think David Cope wrote one for Spielberg. This reimagines War of the Worlds from the sidelines, effectively. So you've got Tom Cruise's sort of blue-collar dock worker character who's really just trying to get his children from point A to point B. And the children are Dakota Fanning and the kid from the awful Dragon Ball movie that we all like to forget existed. The one that we forget, but it had Spike from Buffy in it. So please never forget, and let's hold this against them forever. Was it Dragon Ball? Was it Dragon Ball Z I'm thinking of? It's about 2008, 2009. They put that in a Street Fighter movie at the same time. And the Street Fighter one starred Oz from American Pie and Kristen Krug from Smallville. But anyway, this was probably for the best, if we're honest. War of the Worlds, it reimagines the whole story with Tom Cruise's protagonist literally on the sidelines of all the major events. So the buildings fall down and everything, but they fall down just off camera and behind him. rather than in front of him. That's the trick they've used, and it's pretty good. I watched this recently for Paul Ross's show. I had to revisit it for the first time in like a decade, and it holds up better than you'd think it would, although it has been ripped off so much now you wouldn't believe. A lot of Will Smith movies seem to borrow from this for some reason. Like a lot of I Am Legend got ripped straight out of War of the Worlds. Can't figure that one out. But you can see it for yourself on Saturday, the 12th. One movie that I know you'll be more excited to see, though, on Amazon Prime, our final pick for this week, comes next Friday, the 18th, on Amazon Prime. It is, of course, Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman, which I assume you liked The Gentleman, Zehra.
Oh, yes, baby.
We got there eventually.
Yay!
No, this was McConaughey, Hugh Grant, Charlie Hunnam, Colin Farrell,
Michelle Dockery.
Oh, Michelle Dockery, yes, who gets my favourite line in the film. I'll just say something is afoot and leave it at that. Golding, who I want to see in every movie ever. I adore Henry Golding. Just a really great movie. And this largely takes the form of Hugh Grant standing around in Charlie Hunnam's kitchen, telling him a story about a criminal who Charlie Hunnam happens to work for, played by Matthew McConaughey, and the various schemes that sprout up around him, including one in which they drug Eddie Marsan, have him, let's just gently say, make love to a farm animal, and then show him the products of this love.
How's your mending, Coach?
He'll survive. Wouldn't have been the pig I would have chosen, though. You know what bit that is?
Good Lord.
I mean, I was there and I'm still shocked.
Is that who I think it is?
Yeah, certainly is.
And that's your doing. You can't unsee it once you've seen it, can you?
No, you can't unsee it. It's nightmare fuel. That'll be with me forever.
It really would, wouldn't it?
It still kills me now. Oh,
it is. When you think of the scene, you think of Eddie Marsan's face during that moment. You really feel it. It's also the fact that Eddie Marsan just plays such a brilliant sort of parody of every tabloid news editor you have ever seen in an interview. And so you kind of think he's got it coming in this. But, I mean, how good is Colin Farrell in this? Like, I don't think he's getting anywhere near the props he deserves for this one.
No, he doesn't. And I mean, he should do more comedy because it's absolutely brilliant. And he just delivers these lines over and over and over again. It's absolutely brilliant.
There's a great gag that comes up every now and again involving the name of, I think he's a Vietnamese character. We can't verbally repeat it. But yeah, it's just a great moment. There's so many great sequences in the film. There's a whole prolonged scene with Charlie Hunnam in a smack den that, for me, is just one of the best moments in any film last year. Going back to Farrell, though, I think it's all about Colin Farrell, and I do.
And Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant has
and Hugh Grant.
Yeah, both knocked this one out of the park, actually.
I was going to get to Hugo. I was just going to say that between this and In Bruges, I agree with you. Farrell should do a lot more comedy. He should do this specific kind of dark comedy. Hugh Grant, though, literally just getting the chance to just go for a ride and enjoy himself.
Yeah.
I want to tell you a story, Mickey. Oh, come on. Let me tell you a story. And he's so sleazy and so fun.
It's just that Cockney accent. It just like he can talk gobbledygook and you'd be in fits of laughter.
I'm sure there are points when he just does say gobbledygook.
I think he does.
Yeah, and we just laugh along with it because he's so fun. Oh, I forgot to wash my hands. He's just so much fun in this. But also, you know what? It's been a long time since Pacific Rim. We finally found another Charlie Hunnam film that works. Congratulations, Chuck. You finally found another one.
Well, let's just say, as long as Guy Ritchie is around, Charlie Hunnam has always got a career.
But he has. Whether or not it's a good career, as King Arthur would attest, is another thing entirely. But
I never said good. I just said a career.
Did you know Warner Brothers still have that poster up that signed King Arthur one? That's signed by Guy Ritchie, that he quite clearly signed whilst he was still under the illusion that there was a franchise in this.
I didn't know that, no.
Oh, it's on the wall at Delane Lee. If you're walking up the staircase in Warner Brothers Delane Lee, there is a framed poster of King Arthur Legend of the Sword, signed at length by Guy Ritchie. There's also one for Patty Jenkins for Wonder Woman, but obviously we knew there was a franchise in that. But the one for King Arthur is just the Everest of optimism.
Warner Brothers Ever Optic.
Ever optimistic, but we say that they're probably still planning It Chapter 3 as we speak. But The Gentleman, though, we can say is a resoundingly great movie, and you should absolutely see it. I think I'm on one of the poster campaigns for this for Talk Radio somewhere.
Oh, big
Although I've never seen it. It's one of those that I've never seen. Have you? How many of these have you got? These ones where you're on a quote somewhere, but you've never seen it.
Oh, I've had a few of those. I mean, I've had people send them to me, but I've never spotted them myself.
No one ever sends me jack. Start sending me my quotes, people. But it's not my job to have to look these up. I come up with the quotes. But so that's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? But alas, The Gentleman, I think, is a fine way to round off the week, and I think that's a good 7-day helping of cinema there. I think.
Yeah, there's a couple in there you should definitely see.
A couple in there. I think you, Miss Phelan, definitely see Galaxy Quest.
I'm gonna do that Saturday night. That's it. I'll get my popcorn and I'm doing Galaxy Quest.
You should. I look forward to the WhatsApp message I inevitably do afterwards, which just contains the word "thank you" over and over again.
Or what the beep?
or more appropriately, never give up, never surrender, because that is something you'll be quoting once you've seen the delight that is Galaxy Quest. And in the meanwhile, that's 7 days of cinema from us then. I guess all we get to do is go away, recharge, see more movies, come back in a week's time and talk some more about them. So sounds like a fun routine to me. In the meanwhile, I've been Van Kai.
And I've been Zehra, and we'll be back. Well, he will. I won't. Bye.